So let's have a look what kind of people you are today. Then I want to move on to another aspect, which is basically the 10 or so practical hints on how to manage your cash flow on a daily basis. And in the third part of the session, I'd like to deal with maybe a couple of issues, if we have time, on credit management, debt management, because historically, we might have problems. And those problems could impact on our day-to-day cash flow. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips on debt management, if that's okay with you. So let's ask these questions. You don't have to answer them aloud. Do you know what's the bank balance in your account today? Do you know how much money is sitting in your petty cash box? Do you know how much you need in the next 7 days? Do you know how many sales you have to make in order to break even, in order to make a profit? If you answered no to any of those questions, ladies and gentlemen, I've got good news for you. Just like a lot of other people. Most businesses, at some stage of their life, will go through a cash flow crisis for various reasons. Look at Eskom. Have Eskom been through a cash flow crisis? Of course. That's why they're upping our electricity rates. That's why they went and borrowed some money into place. So let's have a look at the kind of people that we have in small business today that deals with your cash flow. This might be you. You can choose which one of these you are. But I think the principle I want to put into place is if you know what kind of person you are and you know what the downfalls are, or what are the characteristics in that person that can actually damage your cash flow, you then know how to rectify it. So if I know where I am, I know where to put in safeguards and safety features so that I don't fall into the trap on a day-to-day basis. So the first person, I want to talk about the wishers. Are you a wisher? Are you the person that from a cash flow perspective looks at that wonderful motor vehicle and you say, you know what, I can afford that payment. So you're not looking at the debt, you're looking at the payment. And you say, well, you know, next month I'm giving an increase. Or I can pay with this, with my overtime easily. So wishers will generally want something and focus on the payment amount. But you know what happens at the end of the month. The little 150 rand here and the 300 rand there and 1,000 rand there that you can afford, if you lump them together, at the end of the month it will create a cash flow problem for you. So a wisher would need to guard against looking at the affordability of all their payments. The waster, and I promise myself every time not to mention this, but unfortunately I have to mention this, people that reward themselves because they want it. So people that are wasters at times will just go and buy something because they make them feel good. So are you a waster? Thank you for being honest, eh? So if you're a waster, understand that there are times where you have to divert your focus to something else to make you feel good. The wanters of people, and I'm afraid, I must confess, this is what I am. Immediate gratification. Want it now. And what happens is we do what we can, we buy it anyway, regardless of the consequences. I did a test, and I took, I think it was 27-year-old children, and I said to these kids, guys, you can take 2 marshmallows now, I'll give them to you now. But if you wait just 20 minutes, I will give you 4 marshmallows. Okay, double. 70% of those children took the 2 marshmallows now. So this was the marshmallow syndrome. I need to keep up with the Joneses, or I just need to have this immediately. So if you're in that boat, understand that. Understand what kind of person you are. The winners, these are the kind of people that we'd like to be. They understand that, you know what, sometimes there is a time to make debt, but it must be a good debt. You get only bad debts are bad. So have a look, ladies and gentlemen, at the kind of debt that you're making, and that's what a winner does. A winner makes sure that the debt that is incurring will not be putting him in a negative situation. A small business owner should have a little bit of all of this in you. But you've got to manage it to the extent that it doesn't negatively affect your cash flow, the money that goes in and out of your business. If you analyze your cash flow, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see there's two kind of scenarios that are going to crop up. Either you're going to have no money coming in, or too little coming in. Now the reasons for that could be various, and I've just mentioned a couple on the slide. You might have not enough money to generate money, lack of capital, and Gina spoke to you earlier on about raising funding and capital. You might not have enough sales. Not so? I'm sure after Bill's presentation this morning you'll have more of a focused idea of improving your sales. Importantly, are your costings correct? Do you have the right price for your product? If you're selling Vuvuzelas for 20 Rand that you've bought for 10 Rand, honestly, the bottom line isn't that Vuvuzela doesn't cost you 10 Rand. It costs you more than that. It's got to make a contribution to your salary. It's got to make a contribution to your telephone account, your freight, your insurance. So make sure that your product or your service is costed correctly. The other issue that happened, and we'll deal with that this morning, because the other 3 points we don't have time for at this point in time, is you get sales, but people aren't paying you quickly. Do you have that? So you do the sale, but you're not getting your money in time. So your delayed payments are causing you cash flow issues. You might have an excessive expense, which is absolutely necessary. Maybe you do need that plant. You do need that equipment. Something gone? Equipment to produce your product. So that's a necessary expense. But very often, ladies and gentlemen, we have situations where we have unnecessary expenses that are expensive. And in East London, which is the place where I live and work, let's call him a builder. His name is Brian. And he comes to visit me, my associate, and we're chatting about it, and I see, this guy rocks up with this SL 500 Mercedes. His wife has got this fancy car, and they've got jet skis, and I'm thinking to myself, man, am I doing something wrong here? This guy was a police officer 2 years ago, and he started a little construction business, and now he's getting all of these assets. And I thought, wow, that is unbelievable. Anyway, the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, is that that guy today has not got 2 cents to rub to his name. You know why? Because when the times were good, he didn't put away money for when the times are going to be bad. And that excessive optimism and excessive pessimism cycle that Bill Gibson speaks about is a reality. So if you're in that fortunate situation where you're able to make more cash flow than you need, please put some away for the days where you're not going to be having as much cash flow, because that will happen. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about cash flow essentials. Your business is not only about sales. You've got to have administration systems in place, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't have to be fancy. I don't care if it's a little book where you have one side money coming in, the other side money going out. I don't care if it's a file where you've divided it into 2 in the LeverArt system and saying, these are the invoices I've sent out, these are the invoices I have to pay. But you need an administration system. Administration systems will help you, ladies and gentlemen, to identify when your cash flow is at its peak and when it is absolute lowest. A budget focuses you on your expenses and on your income. Okay, we're happy with the cash flow statement. Is it vital? Of course it's vital. If you've been in business for a couple of years and you're making money without a cash flow statement, well done. Brilliant. I want to suggest, however, if you have a cash flow statement, you'll be able to manage that money better. So, the other 10 principles. Number 2, I think, at this stage. You need to get your money in as quickly as possible. Every day that you take beyond your agreed term of 30 days, as an example, that you take to get that money into your business, the more the chance is of you losing that money. By the same token, ladies and gentlemen, your creditors are very important as well. Your terms and conditions of your credit payment. How often do we hear people getting contracts with big institutions that will pay them on 90 and 120 days? And you enter into that contract because it's exciting, you're going to make a lot of money. But your suppliers want to be paid 30 days. So there is a cash flow problem. I'm not saying don't do this, I'm just saying be aware that the timing issue between you being paid and you having to pay can sink your business. So if you can, the ideal situation would be this. You extend your creditor. Tell him, can I pay you on 60 days? And you get your customer to pay you on 30 days. That would be perfect, wouldn't it? Because now you're getting your money in before you're paying it out. The better price you get, the better your margins, the better your cash flow. The money that you tie up with stock can kill your cash flow. You can have a huge stock holding, and that could be the problem for your cash flow at the end of the month. So if there are specials on milk, car radios that you're on selling, I'm not saying don't buy a lot extra. Just be aware that that money is now not part of your available cash flow. It is sitting on your shelf and could be creating a cash flow problem if you don't sell it within the same month. So stock holding is imperative to keep tabs on it so that you're not holding excess stock. And if you've got old stock, maybe it's time to get rid of that at a discounted sale or something of the sort. Use that as a marketing exercise to get people into your store. The bankers will tell you that a long-term asset is an asset like a piece of property, commercial property. I'm saying to you that a long-term asset is an asset that you will need or use in your business for longer than 12 months. So there's no point in buying plant and equipment, ladies and gentlemen, over a period of 12 months. You buy that with an installment sale or a lease agreement over 3 or 4 years. You don't buy property out of your overdraft. You pay it off over as long as possible. The reason for that is pretty much cash flow. Timing of your income and your expenditure. Try and match the income and expenditure so that it meets in the middle. Negotiate